Hi guys, I just wanted to do a quick sort of summary of how we got on at the Battles Middle-earth Doubles Tournament 2024, which is a doubles tournament at Warhammer World using the Throne of Skulls scoring system. We've got Mr. Tom Rice with us today.
Hello.
So Tom was my partner, so I thought everyone might want to hear it from him as well, just to make sure that I'm not making stuff up. So you're here to back up my nonsense, Tom.
I shall corroborate your stories, don't worry.
But just quickly to go over the doubles format. So yes, the Throne of Skulls scoring system. So basically, it uses the minor major win tournament point scoring system at the back of the match play guide, so you can get up to 6 points for for a major victory, and then a minor victory is 5 points. And there are 5 games. There's a maximum of 30 tournament points available for gameplay, but then each team was able to vote twice for for 2 teams for their best game, and then also best army. And each vote you got was 3 points. So you obviously could get up to 5 for that as well. So that's up to 15 for each of those categories. So basically, the game's made up 50% of your score, best painted 25%, and then best game 25%. So Tom and I were sort of umming and ahhing about what to take. And Tom, you've got Serpent Horde, Farharad, and a bit of Mordor, I think. I think that's right, isn't it? It's not got too
Yeah, I
much.
think I've made regular appearances on your channel with them, and people will probably notice the distinct lack of variety in my offerings. So, yeah, limited with what I could bring to the table, I think.
Yeah, so we're sort of thinking, weren't we, is that so if you wanted to run Farharad, I'd probably have to run Harad. And I do have Harad, but they're not painted, and my painting slowed right down at the moment. So that wasn't really going to work. But you could have taken Serpent Horde, and I could have taken Mordor as a Green Alliance. That was possible, but it's a bit sort of meta-y at the moment, I think. So it's a bit dreary. And I think because obviously G-Dubs in Infinite Wisdom have sort of made the Merchant Guard and various other things out of production, it's a bit hard to get the models you actually want to run at a tournament, I think. So it's a bit of a pain, isn't it?
Yeah, most of Harrogem I've got lover models I've got, but I do need some Merchant Guard to fill them up, so I'm waiting for that made to order
Waiting
stock
for
to come in.
patiently.
And yeah, hopefully what we saw at the exhibition yesterday with the Merchant Guard out of the exhibition hall, because they're being snapped for some photos for some made to order. So fingers
I'd
crossed.
really hope so.
Yeah.
That would be exciting. But yeah, so we decided against that. So then we were looking at what Mordor you've got, and you've basically got a bench of orcs, the Witch Kings, some Warg Riders, and a bunch of Mordor Uruks. So we sort of looked at that, and I've got Shelobs and Mordor Uruks and loads of Mordor Orcs amongst other things. So we sort of settled on the Cirith Ungol Legendary Legion, because it's quite themey but still pretty good, but also pretty fun, just because you obviously get to push around Shelob, and that's always quite exciting. And you've got Gorbag and Shagrat. So yeah, so that's what we decided on. So because Tom trusts me for some reason, I had to have Shelob and Shagrat in my half, and then you had Gorbag, didn't you? Gorbachev doing
I've just pulled up some pictures of Gorbachev, and I'm regretting not painting a red birthmark on my Gorbag's head.
Hindsight's a beautiful thing. But just very quickly, just to rattle through the list. So I had Shagrat with obviously all the gear, 6 Mordor Uruks with shield, and then 1 with 2-handed mace, and I had Shelob, and then the Warband I had Orc Captain with shield, and then Orc with banner and shield, and then 8 Orcs with spear and shield. So the idea is I have a bit sort of form shield wall, and I'm either trying to survive long enough for Tom to come with the cavalry, or I'm I'm sort of providing the punch and sort of the killing power with in terms of heroes with Shagrat and Shelob in particular. But you had the bulk of our army, didn't you, with Gorbachev with shield, and then 2 orcs with bow, 8 with spear and shield, and then a Mordor Urk captain with shield, 8 Mordor Urks with shield, 1 with 2-handed mace, 1 with banner and shield, then all captain with shield, and then 2 with bow, and then 2 with spear, and then 4 with spear and shield. So total of 500 models, 800 points, 50 models, but you had like 32 of them. So you were kind of bringing the infantry and sort of often marching in my direction, and that's just trying to. I don't think we really had much of a game plan other than you were like, James, don't let Shagrat die and use Shelob well, and that's kind of the extent of our strategizing, wasn't it, before the games?
Yeah, I sort of saw myself as a rather long and large roadblock to get in the way until Shelob and Shagrat could get into position. Although I think, as we'll come to discuss, I think in other games it didn't necessarily work like that, did it?
Yeah, mixed results sometimes, but yeah, I mean that was it overall. So should we just get straight into? Oh, in fact, should we quickly just to sort of show off our display board as well. So I've put up some pictures of what it looked like when I gave it to Tom, which is not necessarily that impressive. 'Cause I sort of did the initial foam work where I just sort of cut some shapes of foam, stuck it all together, and put it in the picture frame you bought, and sort of cut a little gorge in and stuff, because we're having like a little cave in the top corner and a little gorge with a bridge over it, and then just sort of some rocks. And just kind of quick summary is you basically took it and fixed it, because I sort of did the painting and it looks a bit crap basically, but you kind of put some love into it, didn't you, the Thursday night before, and sorted it out.
Yeah, and I think it's I think you're denigrating your contribution to it, because I have absolutely no experience of working with foam work. So I think you put the bones together, but then it was fun adding all the details to it, and it's certainly given me an appetite to make my own for the next competition we go to. Well, the next one's in a couple of weeks, isn't it? So probably won't be that one. But
maybe the one after, but which is mine actually, I think.
Ooh,
but so it might be a Haradrim display board for that. But you added some rubble and some tents, and you did the teddy bear fluff to make Shelob's webs and stuff. So we're quite pleased with it and overall. So hoping to scoop up some best army votes, but the competition was pretty insane, to be fair. So
And also, I don't think it helped that for the first 3 games on day 1, we didn't realise that we should have been putting the board next to the table.
that was
the miniatures on it.
I mean, that was probably, I think the first 2 games we did anyway, just because we were carrying it around with us and putting our casualties on it. But I didn't because I thought it was like best overall, as in like the ones that everyone voted for, like generally. I didn't realise it was like of your opponents. So I sort of didn't realise, and therefore didn't mention it to you, and then forgot to ram our display board down everyone's throat day 1. But I think it was only the 3rd game we didn't actually bother bringing the display board over, which was a bit of a faux pas. But is what it is. So game 1 we drew a Serpent Horde and Far Harad.
That hurt. That really hurt, that one.
Yeah.
I didn't like putting Haradrim to the sword. Nor was I particularly capable of doing it.
So it was it was an interesting matchup. So I think we were against I think it was Luke and Dave, and they had basically half of their guys were Farharad, which was just a Mahud King, 11 half trolls, and then 3 raiders. And then on the other side, you had Betrayer, 7 Watchers of Kana with bow, 7 Serpent Guard, and then a chief on foot with 5 Serpent Guard, 6 Watchers with bows, and then 1 just random Haradrim dude with spear, just to round it out. So there's like a lot of models and a lot of shooting and a lot of good shooting, but no banners to speak of, which was interesting. And this was the one where there was an objective at the center of the board, and basically you have to end You have to end in the middle.
It's take and hold, wasn't it, that scenario?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's a well remembered. If I actually had my match play guide in front of me, I might actually.
I definitely am not thumbing through my match play guide right now. There's no way I remember the name of every scenario, so I've got it here. So I'll prompt when we get to each one for you.
So this one, the board was pretty straightforward. So there's not really much to say there. I think I deployed first, and I basically deployed facing one deployment, not for any reason, just because there was a house in the way towards the middle. So I thought we'll have to go one way around it, and one had slightly better access. So I put my boys there, and then Shelob just kind of next to him. But obviously Shelob's got the movement, so her placement doesn't matter so much. And then the half trolls went to the side that I hadn't really deployed against. And then I think you and I quickly sort of, I'm not sure we even actually discussed it, but sort of agreed without really saying anything that we were going to just team up against one of them and just sort of try and smash. And one of them was sort of as wood, but it was a little unfortunate for their deployment and trying to get to the middle. So you kind of went heavily against them and kind of ignored the Farharad. And I think that's kind of, I mean, that was basically our approach, wasn't it? And I think, to sort of without sort of doing a blow by blow account, I think I marched sort of once towards them, and I think you may have marched a couple of times, but I think you got stuck in a turn before me.
Yes.
I don't think their shooting did anything against you, but I think they killed 3, maybe 4 of my Urks, which was quite a lot.
Really good shooting I've never seen from Haradrim. Certainly under my command.
Several turns they did nothing, and then one turn I'm pretty sure they shot 3 out in one turn. So I was a bit alarmed by that. And the Betrayer was kind of at the back doing Bane of Kings every now and again.
Master of Poison.
Oh yeah, sorry, Master of Poisons. Yeah. Clearly, I've not used him myself. But yeah, there's not too much to say really. He tried to sort of form an L shape and use the building to sort of stop you bringing all your numbers to bear. But basically, we just sort of went in hard, killed a bunch of stuff. But I don't think our dice were particularly hot, because I was kind of thinking that they would just melt away because they're defense 4, and obviously we've got the strength 4, and we've got the animosity, and we've got all this other nonsense. I don't think we lost that many models, but it took longer to kill them than I thought it would. Your dice were pretty appalling in particular, I think.
Yeah, there's one moment when we had I think it was the Uruk captain.
I remember his shape. Yeah.
I'm going to try and punch through here, wrap around the back, and what was it? He rolled like a 2 and a 3 on the dual rolls or something like that. And then we had the banner nearby, and he just another 3 or something.
Yeah, I mean, he was kind of breaks your heart, doesn't it? But he, I do actually remember, because it was so disappointing. It was the Uruk captain. He was in 3 combats, certainly for at least the first sort of 2/3 of that game. And you called 2 combats, and he fluffed both of those. The one where he didn't call a combat, he won and killed his opponent. So I was just like,
yeah, he doesn't perform under pressure.
No, he certainly does not. But we did kind of, we did clear up eventually. We never sort of fully cleared up, but I think I sort of indicated that when we have 45 minutes left, let's just sort of rush to the middle, and that's basically what we did. And Shelob sort of cleared up a bit, which kind of forced him to move the Betrayer out and around. So the Betrayer did call Master of Poisons a couple of times, but then kind of Brexited and failed to transfix Shelob once. So I think he didn't actually really do much. And we did kill a bunch of guys, but it didn't actually really help us that much. But then we went to the middle, but the problem was, you had to deal with the raiders, didn't you? But again, the king sort of hung back, and then you kind of had a few raiders come at you. But then, I think when you countercharged, they sort of, they just sort of died, didn't they? I think.
Yeah, so as they tend to do, because they're fight 3. So once if they're not rolling 2 dice and they've not got a banner with them, they can be quite easy to pin in with infantry.
Yeah. But we were kind of in a situation where we'd completely ignored the half troll player, and they'd basically formed a cordon around the objective, and then were sort of clubbing you about in the building. And I think basically I kind of extracted my guys and sort of started rushing them backwards. I did have a moment of genius where I put Shagrat and Shelob in the same combat, called a heroic with Shagrat, and then killed, whatever Haradrim I was in contact with, and then flung Shelob back the other way to kill a half troll who'd sort of gone ahead of the rest, and then obviously kind of used that heroic combat to sort of sling them back the other way and get a half troll kill, because Shelob's probably our best hope against half trolls, because obviously she's the higher fight. They still have the man keyword, which gives her extra attack, and the legendary legion, and then obviously the venom, and so she's actually probably was the best hope. But obviously they sort of kicked you around in the building, and I know because there was one turn where I rolled all your combats for the building, and I rolled like crap, and like you lost so many guys because of me.
It was fine there, but like they were doing their job, so Shelob could do hers.
Doing their job.
Exactly.
There's not too much to say, as they sort of moved their heroes back, and on the last turn, basically, I sort of charged as much as I could on my end, and because I think they had priority, so I charged. They did some charging, and then we did some charging, and then you managed to run a couple of guys past them on the building side of things, and they finally sort of put them ahead king in combat. And again, the last round of combat wasn't actually too exciting, in the sense that I think Shagrat killed his opponent. I think the half trolls potentially killed a couple of dudes. Hood King sort of killed somebody, combated around, and possibly killed someone else. I did nearly mess up with Shelob, because I won a combat, barge, tried to recharge 2, because I think she had charged somehow. I can't remember, to be honest. But she had charged, and then I basically wanted to barge to kill 2 to lessen the amount of models they had in 6 inches of the middle. But then basically I completely sort of miscalled it, in the sense that I could only charge 1. So actually I'd have been better off just squishing that one dude, because then obviously when I recharged with the barge, I then botched, and then Shelob didn't kill anything. But the sort of the final tally was that we basically had one more model in the middle, and I think I can't remember if we were both broken, so we had 1 VP each, but I think it ended 4-1. I'm not sure if you've got anything to add, because I'm just kind of a very high level summary. I can't remember too many details, to be honest.
No, yeah, the first game obviously the most distant in memory, but all I remember is the half trolls had such a beautiful paint job on them. I really liked the bright red skin on them. I thought it was very interesting to take. I thought they were a very good job, and it was nice to see a Harad and a Far Harad army with so many out of production. Or no, because the watches are out of production. It's good to see so many watches of Kana on the table, and then seeing so many half trolls on the table was inspiring but intimidating at the same time.
Yeah, because I think we played it right. Again, we got 4 more games to get through, so I won't sort of waffle too much. But I think we played it right, because I think if we'd have rushed to the middle, the Betrayer just as Master of Poisons, and the Watchers, they got like they got 14 bows, haven't they? So they just shoot us a lot. And then we probably get bogged down with half trolls, and half trolls smash our infantry, and we sort of risk getting broken through shooting and just half troll nonsense. And Shelob and Shagrat and Gorbag can't clean up half trolls quickly enough. And I think we would have just sort of rushed to the middle, been sitting ducks, and then died. So I think our strategy was right, wasn't it? Although I think I sort of said, look, 45 minutes should leave us plenty of time to get back to the middle. And I think in the end, actually, if we'd have had another turn, we'd have comfortably won, whereas we cut it pretty fine, because it was literally one model. That,
by about 2 millimeters.
Yeah, it was kind of it was just a bit beyond the rim of the base, so it was tight, but he definitely was in, because I've got the old measuring tools out and all the rest of it. But it was pretty fine. To be honest, if I'd have not been an idiot with Shelob, then there's kind of been no question, to be fair, because then we'd have won by 2. But that is what it is. But luckily, it didn't matter. But the half troll. I mean, the paint jobs on all of them were good, obviously. But the half trolls, the red was just something else. Was very, very good. So game 2, we were playing Paul and Matt's Dane's Got Wood, because they had Dane Ironfoot, who they rolled as their primary. He was on Warboard, and he had 11 dwarf Iron Hill dwarves with spear and shield, and then he had a banner. So yeah, it was quite light. Oh, in fact, no, he had a captain with 5 more. So he did have a few, but still not too many in the grand scheme of things.
Nasty shield wall though in the middle. They were hard.
Yeah, but I don't know how many times you've played Iron Hills, but I always sort of look at the model count and then I'm just like, well, I'm going to surround and absolutely slap that, and then you just don't, because like, obviously they're defense 8 with shield wall. With the shield wall up. But yeah, and then the other warband was Thrandaddy on Elk with the extra sword and the Circle of Kings, and then he had two cav, and then basically just a whole bunch of Mirkwood elves with a sprinkling of palace guard, without going into sort of precise details. But yeah, so very nasty. And we were playing. What was the mission again, Tom? Can't remember now.
Scenario 2, Total Conquest.
Total Conquest, that was it. So obviously I have to be the primary because Legendary Legion Shagrat has to be the leader. So then I was squaring off with Dane with Shaggers, and obviously I had to deploy first, as is tradition, I think. So I just deployed shield wall. I think he put Dane behind the front line, but because of how there was a fence, and because of how that was set up, I think basically it was sort of fairly obvious Dane was going to come round the side and get a charge off, and I kind of had Shagrat sort of, you know, behind the line with some flexibility, sort of come round, and same with Shelob. She was kind of slightly out of the way, but to not get charged, but she could sort of come in. And I didn't really start off with a plan other than survive and try and chop some dwarves up, wait for Tom to maelstrom on with the Mandem, and then push forwards. So yeah, kind of not great on my part. But just quickly, just to go over what happened in the middle. Basically, they got priority. I think they just sort of charged and shield wall fine. So basically meant shield wall and shield wall. I then sort of ran some dudes around the back, but they'd take another turn to come into play. So it was literally shield wall on shield wall action. Dane charged the flank of the shield wall. I had Shagrat and Shelob free, and we measured, and they could both get in and trap Dane. Well, actually, the trap didn't matter because monstrous charge with Shelob. And I was just like, if this doesn't work, things are going to go really badly because Dane's obviously just going to smack Shagrat and we'll just die. But if we win that strike off, 100% Dane just dies, surely, like with Shaggers and Shelob on him. So so I discussed with you, Tom, and I can't remember why we decided to do it. I think it was more just like it looks cool, and if it works, it's going to be great. I think that was kind of what.
And I thought we felt, well, we could, if we took Dane out of the middle, it would be much easier to churn through that shield wall.
If we killed him turn 1, that's just it, isn't it? It's just then the dwarves just sort of capitulate then, don't they? So
exactly, and then it'd been easier for us to sit in the middle on the objective. While the elves are out of position.
That's true, actually. Yeah, and then I suppose the alternatives, we kind of ignore Dane. Dane grinds us down. We kill some dwarves with Shelob and Shagrat, but ultimately, yeah, Dane's free and just annihilates us basically. So anyway, it completely backfired. Dane won. I think Dane won the strike off, and then won the combat, and then knocked Shagrat down because obviously he'd already charged that turn. In retrospect, maybe we could have waited until we had priority and made sure he wasn't charging.
I think there was absolutely nothing else we could have done. That was a bold strategy.
Okay, I've been doubting it, but yeah, that's fine. No, but yeah, bold strategy. No, so yeah, massively backfired. Shagrat died turn 1, which was really sad. I think they need to spend a point of might to put them in the ground, and then I'll quickly go over the next couple of things in the middle. The next turn, I think Dane struck up against Shelob, and I think he basically survived. He won the combat. I don't think he did any strikes or wounds, or if he might have done 1 or 2 actually, and I just passed the courage. so it wasn't really a big deal. But my dudes in the middle were just getting wrecked. Like the dwarves were just destroying me.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that in absolute true to form, I fluffed every single Maelstrom roll on.
Yeah,
every single one.
Yeah.
So none of our forces came on in a decent position without actually having to spend a point of might, which I think we did with the Uruk. No, with the Uruk captain.
Yeah, that was it. So the Uruk, you spent a point of might to bring him on
from behind.
The Orc we didn't. He rolled a 2.
Yeah.
But I think, to be honest, I think they made a slight error in that they just sort of said, because I think Thranduil came on first, and to be fair, he didn't roll well. And we put him behind this massive rock, which meant it was kind of a bit harder to get to the middle. But I think they should have separated us, whereas I think they just sort of said put him at the back because then they're kind of all over there and we can. But I think actually that kind of helped us a bit more, so we weren't totally destroyed in detail. And then Gorbag rolled a 1, didn't he, the first time? But then I think the next time he came on from one of the sides, didn't he?
We could roll a 6. Yeah, I think we allowed him to come on wherever we wanted to. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, actually, I'll tell a lie. I didn't fluff everything. I got one good one.
Yeah. So what did you do when your guys arrived and you sort of saw? Well, actually, I suppose the final piece of the puzzle actually that was happening in the middle was I continued to die quite quickly, and Dane obviously was alive. But when he ran out of might, I was able to charge him a Shelob, and Shelob did eat him in turn 3 or 4. I can't remember which one. So that was good. But yeah, so what were you doing? What were you doing in the meantime?
I think I was just marching was the knife of the most. I marched with the Orc captain, marched up the left flank, and then took a left turn when he got to the middle to then wrap round to take that objective at the back on their side. So we sat 2 Orcs with bows and a spear on the back left objective, and then he just carried on up that left hand side to take the objective at the back. The Uruk captain, with his band of merry Uruks, ran up the back to reinforce you.
Yeah,
and then we sort of on that right hand side, that sort of centre right hand side, when Gorby came in from the right, is where we sort of had the fight.
You had the time to just sort of run past, didn't you, rather than get bogged down too far away from the middle, didn't you? So I don't think you wanted Gorbag to fight the elves on his own.
No, exactly. And I can't remember what happened to Gorby that game. Did he die?
Oh no! You've missed out. You've missed out like Gorbag's greatest game.
Oh, so, yes. Yeah, Gorby and Shelob on Frandy, wasn't it?
Yeah. So before that, I think it was just a case of the Gorbag just sort of running away ahead of the elves. Obviously, the elves caused their terror bubble. So I called the terror bubble, which didn't help as Thranduil sort of came into the middle. But luckily, we had. We were able to get Gorbag out ahead of them, and obviously the Uruk's Warband sort of coming in to help as well, because the Orcs Warband were basically just worrying about the 2 side objectives opposite Thranduil. So we kind of had 3 of the 5 objectives locked down really, which was quite key. But when Thranduil did come in, I can't remember if it's the first time of asking. I think the first time of asking, I just put Shelob in and killed a couple of elves, and Thranduil just killed a couple of orcs or whatever, and that was fine. And I think the dwarves were continually sort of whittling us away, and we weren't really doing much damage really, but we were kind of trying to sort of slow the tide of our guys just dying. But then what you did do is you were able to get. Actually, I think the first time Gorbag failed his courage test to charge Thranduil, which is why I didn't do anything. But then what you did do was when we had priority, you put Gorbag into Thranduil, and I basically blocked all the other elves with Shelob by charging her into them. I don't really know what was happening elsewhere. It didn't actually really matter that much, but we were just continually dying in the middle. But then with Shelob, I kind of had a bit of a brainwave. But I was trying to sort of keep it quiet, and I think I mentioned to you what I was going to do, and then the stars sort of aligned a bit. So it got to the fight phase. Gorbag called a strike against Thranduil, and they sort of were looking, and because they didn't have the charge bonus for the elk, so they would be striking at fight 4 with 3 attacks. And I think they were banking on us not doing well in the strike. And even if we equaled them, they have an Elven Blade, so they'd probably win any roll off. And we'd only be on 2 attacks with a banner. So I think that all factored into their thinking to get them to call us heroic strength instead of a strike. Because I think they just wanted to put
in the ground.
ball bag in the ground.
Yeah.
But that kind of meant that all our Christmases came at once because it was our priority. So we did Shelob first. And then I barged and put him into Thranduil. Her into Thranduil even. Shelob is a lady. And then, predictably, because our dice were crap that game. They were awful.
Yeah, but we weren't getting any of the 6s needed to kill the Iron Hill Dwarfs.
No, it wasn't even that. I just couldn't win a bloody combat. They were crap, and our just dudes were just getting like rinsed. And I think we were broken near the end of the game. In fact, actually, I'll come back to that. But but this time you did roll the strike higher than a 6. We did win the combat, and then basically between us, I think I put 4 wounds on Thranduil with Shelob, and Gorbag I think did 1. But then I think
the important one though.
Yeah, it was the important one because they passed one of the fate. Because I think they're out of might by this point as well. They passed one of the fate, which meant that or they passed 2. I can't remember, but either way, Gorbag's wound was essential, so that put him in the ground, and then obviously the terror bubble goes. The Nature's Wrath wasn't able to be used, which would have been quite important, I think, late game in particular. So that kind of swung things a bit our way. And in the meantime, they'd sort of snuck a Palace Guard and an elf to sort of contest one of the objectives, and you're able to kill one.
One of them, yeah.
Yeah, and then, but I think there's not too much to say after that. We just kind of had a few combats the turn afterwards. But I think it was the turn afterwards we broke. But I think that was the last turn of the game because we basically timed out. So we stopped short of taking courage tests. But we had 2 of them completely locked down. And then one of them, I think we had 3 models against their 1. And then I think they had the middle and the back objective, I think.
Yeah, so they didn't have... So the back objective on their side, we had no models near that. But the one in the middle, we had a few, but they had more than us there. Way more than us.
Yeah. Just trying to find out the exact score. I can't recall exactly what. Oh, there we go. I think so. I think we won that 6-5 because we had because we killed their leader and then controlled 2 and then had more models within range of 1, and then they'd killed our leader, controlled 1, broken us, and contested 1. So it was bloody close game, and I think that move against Thranduil probably saved us. But it was pretty awful. I mean, the dice just nothing went right. And yes, we killed Dane, but that's probably one of the few things that went right. And then because like everything had already died. And again, yes, we killed Thranduil, but everything around them just sort of like it was only because the bits where we were controlling objectives is basically because they weren't able to contest them in any way. So the 2 we had, is because they were so far away they were never going to contest them. And then, to be fair, you did kill 1 Palace Guard near one of them where we had like a few models, but even so, we were kind of just dying slowly enough to have more models next to it. So it was a bit of a squeaky bum game, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, it was very, very close. It felt like we were losing the entire game, pretty much.
Yeah, I kind of nearly succumbed to defeatism as well, didn't I? When Shagrat died, I was a bit like, and I sort of lost almost every combat. I think I won 1 combat and then didn't kill, and I think other than that, I think I just like.
Yeah.
So I think I was sort of
succumbing
to
a little
defeatism. Yeah, but then things sort of turned around, didn't they? And
yeah.
So I suppose it's on to the next game then, isn't it? Yeah. So game 3 was No Escape, and we were playing one of the Pompey Pirate teams, and they had Gandalf and Boromir. And this is the one where primaries both deploy within 6 inches of the middle opposite each other, but then the secondary is basically coming up behind the enemy primary, so it's just basically a big old sort of sandwich and chaos, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think sort of meeting in the middle around what's left of the two primary forces.
Yeah, and they were unfortunate to roll Gandalf as their primary, and I think they set up first. Yeah, they did set up first, and they put Gandalf behind a big bubble of shield, so it was impossible for me to get to him even with a heroic combat or barge or something. So he would definitely have one turn of not being hurt. And I think basically they deployed him in a big sort of steel bubble, and then Boromir and Madriel sort of set up the other side to march up behind and get Boromir in. That kind of wasn't really rocket science, I suppose. And then like you just kind of deployed in a big bubble 6 inches around the captain, didn't you, just to sort of double march as well?
Yeah, exactly. Just marched up that right hand side, because there was like a field and a building which had formed their shield wall up behind which Gandalf sat. I think I saw a bit of an opportunity to pin Gandalf in that area if we came up on the other side of the building. So double march in that direction to like.
I think that's exactly what you did, actually.
Yeah.
Is as you were coming up behind, there was just there was not really anywhere for Gandalf to go, other than he could sort of break out and come around. Otherwise, he'd have to sort of march in front of you or go towards. Basically, he was going to have to go towards Shagrat or Shelob to escape. But with the sort of free turn of not being charged, they immobilized Shelob, which I didn't resist. I think I rolled 2 dice, didn't I, to try and resist.
You were already in combat, weren't you?
Yeah.
When she was paralyzed.
Well, she was
immobilized.
Transfixed or immobilized. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, yeah, we'll get the right spell eventually. But then he charged Gandalf into Shelob, but didn't strike, which meant that I would still be on 3 dice, and if I got a 6, I would win but not make strikes. And I think potentially, if that was going to be the play, it would have been probably better to. I mean, I'd probably call a heroic channel and just do the terrifying aura thing, just to protect Gandalf and obviously make us take courage tests, because obviously our guys just can't deal with courage tests. Because the immobilized Shelob didn't help because I won the combat, and because Gandalf, I got the higher fight. It just meant that I just sort of pushed them back, and then and then it kind of meant Gandalf was boxed in. And I think meanwhile there was a sort of a bit of give and take in the general melee. I think that there was some wins on either side. Shagrat called a heroic combat and then nearly failed to kill 2 warriors of Minas Tirith, so I had to spend a point of might, and then he went into the 2 rangers behind, basically to cut a path through to get to where Gandalf was by this point, because Gandalf had run out, and then he failed against the 2 rangers. So Shagrat was kind of a bit of a wet lettuce for most of this game.
Someone else had designs on Gandalf this game, though.
Yeah. So I think you kind of just marched up and you sent some guys either side the building, but you sent the Uruk captain and Gorbachev towards where Gandalf was.
I think the Orc captain also on that side of the building.
Oh yeah, actually, no, to be fair, you put all your heroes there, didn't you? But you sent some dudes round the side as well. But sort of close the trap almost. But I think again, I think there was some roll-offs for heroic moves, and I think they went our way whilst Gandalf was alive, because I think there were 2 heroic move roll-offs, and we won both of them. And I think it meant we basically charged Gandalf twice, and I think I can't even remember. Maybe unless it was turn 2 that we got Gorby in as well. I can't even remember now.
No, because it'd have been turn 3, because turns 1 and 2 I marched, so it must have been turn 3 when the Uruk captain called a. I can't remember which one of them called a heroic.
He must have. I know what happened. So I think what happened is Gandalf actually won that combat and then didn't wound Shelob in turn 2. But then turn 3, that's when you called a heroic move with the Uruk to get Gorby and Shelob into Gandalf. so Gandalf only cast one spell the whole game, which was the Immobilize, and because he hadn't got the Terror bubble up, it meant that we were able to get our boys in, and basically Gorby. In fact, what happened? I think didn't we? I think we both. So I think Gandalf struck as well, but you won the strike off.
Yes, yeah, I think you rolled a 2 on Gandalf's strike, didn't he, or something like that, and then Gorby rolled a 6.
Yeah, so you got to fight 10. So yeah, basically, then we won the fight, and I think had Gorbag, an orc or two, and then Shelob in, and basically they just killed Gandalf.
Didn't
And I think
finally to them folks around there, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think because he had 3 fate, and I think he passed 2 and then failed 1, re-rolled it to a fail. And I think again that was just enough to mean that he died, because I think we caused, what did we do? We must have caused 5 wounds, I think, and he was out of might by this point. So that was Gandalf dead, which was a bit of a triumph, really.
Yeah,
but
did you
then
get victory points for if you kill the enemy? You score 3 victory points. Yeah, so
I think yeah, because I think the secondary is worth something in this. So I think that you get DPs for wounding the primary or killing the primary, but you have to kill the secondary, and then I think it's broken banner, isn't it? After that, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't think there's actually too much to say other than that by this point, I think we only had 45 minutes left, because I think we played 2 rounds. We deployed and played 2 rounds in an hour, so it was quite a slow game that was never going to sort of naturally conclude. So I think we sort of had that in the back of our mind as well, in that we were probably going to go to time. But to be honest, it didn't really change our strategy. I think we just continued to get stuck in, and I actually don't think there's actually really.
But no, we were doing that desperate struggle running away from Boromir, weren't we? Getting Gorby and Shagrat back round to make sure that he couldn't get and secure the victory points.
But in terms of in terms of the sort of actual sort of combats, obviously they had the Boromir's banner buff, so I think our actual combats didn't go super swimmingly, but we were kind of chipping away. But there's not really that much to say. I think Boromir was the threat in that he kind of, just sort of menacing us, and we had to try and sort of, keep blocking stuff, and try to block him away from Gandalf and that sort of thing. And I think what surprised me is I think the combat got called, and I thought then he's going to peel off Shelob from Gandalf, and then we're not going to be able to kill Gandalf. But I think Boromir then combated into the middle, away from Shelob, and that kind of we were able to.
Yeah, was it? No, that was it. It was because they charged Shelob Gandalf, and then you were expecting Boromir to come into the rescue, weren't you? But then I don't think they saw Gorby coming up from the side, who then, when we had the moved in. I think that was it.
Oh yeah, that was yeah. Details are fuzzy, but the overall trajectory of the game.
Gorby stab.
But yeah, and then I think the only other thing of note was that basically I didn't think that Boromir could get into Shagrat through the melee. I don't think you get a horse in there, but apparently a horse could just get in there, which was sad, because obviously it meant Boromir charging Shagger. I think Boromir had 2 points of might by this point as well, and I had 1 with Shagrat, and we both struck to fight 10, I believe, and then both rolled the 6, but then the roll off went to us. And then I think the first thing I did was kill the horse.
Yeah, get him on the ground.
Just get him off that horse. And then the one got rolled for the throne rider as well, didn't it? So the last point of might had to go on that to make sure, because obviously I think by that point we had a lot more might, so we just call heroic moves and just keep him on the ground, hopefully, to keep that banner from being useful. And even if we don't kill Boromir, it's like fine, but the banner's not being used. So Boromir was on his feet, and they were sort of pretty tapped out of might. So I think by this point it was already the sort of last turn of the game we actually had time for. So basically, you just called the heroic with I think it was probably with Gorby, wasn't it? And then basically just Gorby and Shagrat was just like, nope, just ran away.
Come back here, Shagrat. Yeah.
So Yeah, so that one went to us. I'm not sure if we I can't remember how the points worked out. To be honest. I can't remember if we broke them or not. But
Yes, yeah, I'm pretty sure
oh,
we did.
yes, we did,
So,
because it finished 9-1. I think we dropped the point because they still had a banner, so we both got one VP for having a banner, and then we dropped two VPs for not killing Boromir. So yeah, we must have broken them. So yeah, so that was the end of day one with 3 wins, which was surprising, wasn't it?
yeah, wrapped up by a lovely midnight McDonald's in bed. So
Yeah, I was asleep by 10. I was bloody hungry. So. We didn't attend the quiz though, did we? Because we were thinking about staying overnight in Nottingham because it's like an hour and 20 minutes from us, but I think
realised we're in our 30s and then decided that
it's
too old.
bedtime.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, yeah. But yeah, so with that, it's on to day 2. And we drew John and Rob, Thrandy and the Bear. So basically, they had Grimbjorn with however many. In fact, it's 10 Bjornings, all with 2-handed axe, and then Thranduil with 3 rangers, and then a couple of cav, and then just a bunch of armored elves. And this was Duel of Wits, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, Duel of Wits, where we were starting in opposite corner. I think it took us a little while to figure out, which corners we were supposed to be in.
Yeah.
In the end, yeah.
Yeah, the deployment seemed to have confused all involved, but but I deployed first, and basically we forced Thranduil behind Weathertop to sort of slow him down, hopefully. But as it turns out, I think he deployed next to Weathertop. Basically, I deployed as far forwards as I could to call the march to reach you, and you did likewise. But they very, very, very clearly set up to basically take you on alone, because they both went to that edge of their deployment to intercept you. So the writing was on the wall a little bit there. But we both secretly chose someone to kill as per the objectives. So why did you go for your choice?
Well, I thought Thrandy would be slightly softer to kill than a giant bear, but I've never played bears before, so this is my first experience.
Did kill him 2 games ago.
That is true, yeah. So we had the record, and like obviously Gorby was like, hungry for more Thrandy blood.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Gorby helped kill Thranduil and Gandalf at this point with his strikes.
Yeah.
So I chose Thranduil as well, and it just seems sort of obvious to me, because the bear is just very difficult to deal with, whereas Thranduil, you got Shelob, it's kind of not impossible. So yeah, I just thought that made sense. But
I guess you still need to be careful as well, don't you? Because I guess with a bear, like if you start throwing everything into it, like it's hard to kill him in one turn, and then it sort of gives the game away, doesn't it? While as he can then sort of pull back and go, right, they're clearly going for I can't remember the bear's name.
Grimbjorn.
They're clearly going for Grimbjorn. So I'll pull him back now that he's taken a beating, and keep him safe, keep him secret.
Yeah.
But the with Thrandy, I thought there's a good chance if we can get Shelob and Shagrat or Shelob and Gorbag into him, we can put him down in one turn and then claim the points.
Yeah. Because obviously, in order to claim the points as well, you had to. I mean, there were separate points for killing your objective, but then also your opponent's target being alive and in the middle, or within 6 of the middle, isn't it? So, So I mean, my early game isn't that complicated. I basically marched up. I think I marched up once, and then I moved again to form a shield wall between Weathertop and this stone hill thing, and that's literally my first half of the game. But I think your first half of the game was more eventful.
So I called a march, and I marched up, and then they won priority on the second turn. So it sort of we assumed they'd picked a soft, squishy orc captain, and given that I was the one who was being isolated for a pounding, it felt very much like the orc captain would be the natural choice.
I think you actually won the heroic move off, didn't you? Because I think oh wait, no, you didn't. No, because you both called a heroic move, So Thranduil called a move, and you
he
called a
won.
move.
Yeah.
Grimbeorn didn't call a move. Thranduil won, and I think unfortunately Gorbag was on the outside of your sort of bubble that was trying to
Facing
reach.
Randy. Yeah.
Yeah, which is it's not great, but equally it has strike, so it's not the worst thing in the world. So he got pinned down, and obviously the elves pinned down a bunch of guys on that side of the bubble, which is who cares? They're just they're orcs, they're meant to die. But it did mean that you're able to pull your orc captain and Uruk into the center of the formation, away from all the big scary stuff.
Yeah.
Because I was convinced that they'd chosen your orc captain, because I thought, well, are they going to choose Shelob or Shagrat? No. Are they going to choose my orc captain? Probably not, because he's with Shelob and Shagrat, and they've lined up against you. And I was just like, well, out of your 3 heroes, it makes sense to kill the orc captain.
Yeah, he's the softest, isn't he?
Yeah, so I was convinced that's what they were going for. But basically, they absolutely smashed, and I mean like genuinely smashed, because after you were able to get a bunch of stuff away, the Bjornings came in, and I think they were able to charge as well, because you couldn't get away, because of how the deployment and stuff sort of had worked. But luckily, other than Gorbag, it was just warriors that were charged. But obviously, with the Thranduil Death Ball and the sort of Bjorning Death Ball, they actually killed like 14 models in one turn. But how did the Gorby Thranduil thing go, Tom?
So I can't remember whether was it a roll off? No.
Yeah,
Gorby won the roll off for the strike. So
yeah, and
he
then
did
rolled
very
it too
well on
high.
and then was unsuccessful in afflicting wounds on Thranduil. So yeah, no Glasnost in the 4th game.
I thought he died the first time, because I thought that he rolled a too high in the dual roll and he got killed in the first turn.
Oh yes,
I think you're thinking
you're
of the
right.
Spearman.
You're right. Yeah.
So
the Chadley Spearman, who we'll come back to.
Yeah.
So Gorby proper fluffed the strike roll, didn't he? And then he just got
Yeah, I can't even remember what he struck to, but he rolled a too high, and the banner had kind of cheesed it slightly away from from everyone a bit. And in fact, they've done something quite clever actually, where Grimbeorn barged to get into the formation to charge the banner and kill it before this fight.
Yeah.
So kind of just everything was going badly basically, and they played it perfectly, and dice were probably I think they were in our favour at this point. And I think when you did roll a 6, that's when they rolled a 6 as well. So it's just kind of one of those where
it felt very much like every 6 that we rolled, they then had a banner reroll. And it felt, I'm sure it wasn't the case.
To be fair, I think it was, because I think they started to feel a bit bad actually. We did nothing that turn, and they killed 14 of your dudes. And just as a quick sort of summary, obviously Thranduil got his Terror Bubble off, and did the same thing the following turn. But by that point, and the other thing is the Mirkwood Sentinel basically played some forest jazz and caused Shelob to basically move out of position, because I failed the courage test, and it would have been like, I think it was literally three will it would have been to resist. And I was like, well, like realistically, we're going to break almost immediately, and there's going to be a lot of courage tests, and she's going to take wounds, so I just didn't resist it. So it meant Shelob basically, I'll quickly just tell Shelob's whole game because it's uninteresting. She basically moved behind this rock, and then basically spent another turn moving into a position where she could charge. She then charged the subsequent turn, and then failed to win the duel, and then the game ended. So Shelob did nothing the whole game. And they were sort of saying, oh, it's a good 90 points because it made them think. And I was like, oh, it's a bad 90 points because she did nothing.
Yeah. She was the MVP every other game, I think.
Every other game, but this one she just did nothing. And by this point I basically left you to your fate, but set up a shield wall to basically try and block them away from the center of the board. Unsuccessfully, I might add, because they basically killed and sort of pushed us back. But you had a Chadley Spearman, didn't you? Charged I think he charged Thranduil a couple of times, beat him once, but failed to wound the elk. And I don't think he beat Grimbeorn, but Grimbeorn didn't kill him because he basically used him to slingshot off him as a barge or something to get.
No, there was two. There's the one without the shield, who was, I think he survived till the end of.
Yeah, he did.
game?
Yeah, he didn't die. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was there. He's just beating off elves and Bjornings
Mana
left,
rephrased
right,
that,
and
but yeah.
centre. You know what I
He's
said?
just, like,
With his
really
two-handed
wanted
weapon. So he was there. Yeah, he charged Thrandy once, passed the terror check once, but then I think he was also charged by him. But on both instances, he either won or only he killed an cavalryman, didn't he? Killed the horse.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he got a cavalryman off his horse. I think he beat Thranduil in combat twice, and then continues to not die for the rest of the game. Another spearman did hold up Bjorn, but Bjorn barged, recharged him, and then killed him.
Yeah.
And to
he
be
held him up
honest,
for one turn, didn't he?
yeah.
And then the second turn, he barged him and then just like absolutely walked the crap out. It was like one of the scene from The Revenant, I think.
Yeah, it really was, wasn't it? I don't think we really need to sort of go into too much more. I mean, it was just an absolute pounding. Those guys just sort of capitulated. I had to send Shagrat in because I was like, they haven't chosen Shagrat, so I'm gonna have to send him in. And to be fair, he did strike up and kill a couple of Bjornings and then sort of kept a few more at bay. But
yeah, I think after that horse, that was the first things we actually killed that game.
Yeah, no, we killed a horse, and then it took 2 turns before Shagrat then killed a couple of Bjornings. I think we ended up, we did kill like another couple of elves or something, but I mean that was it. It was pretty horrific in terms of sort of output. But we did have all the captains at the back, so we had Shagrat and Shelob obviously doing business. I didn't think they were the targets, so I was quite happy with Shelob not being in the centre and Shagrat being in combat. They obviously had killed Gorby, but the Orc Captain, and Uruk Captain were at the back, but within 6 inches of the middle. We broke, and then so we had one turn of courage test because the game ended the first turn it could have. In that turn, your captain ran off, didn't he?
He did. He rolled the big 3 on the courage test, I think.
Yeah, so point of will wouldn't have done it because he spent both his might. Your captain hung around. My captain spent a point of will to hang around. So by this point, I just sort of been like, well, clearly the Orc Captain was their target, and so we've definitely lost now, as opposed to almost certainly having lost. It's definitely lost. So I mean that was pretty much it, really, wasn't it? There's not too much to say beyond that.
No, apart from they were thoroughly great opponents to play against. Although we took a beating, it felt quite fun.
Yeah, it was definitely up there in terms of like one of the best games I've had recently as well, because like we took an absolute pounding, but it was just like, I don't know, it was just still quite chill and we were having fun, and it's just kind of like, it's just, I mean, it's just one of those things that sometimes you just get absolutely smashed, but our opponents were really nice, so we just kind of weren't even that bothered at that point. So but yeah, no, it's good. So it turned out they both targeted Gorbag, which I completely didn't see coming. So in fact, the game was pretty much sealed from the outset without us realizing.
Turn 2, it was lost, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I think we. What did we lose that one by? It was by quite a lot. I'm not sure if it was I think it might have been a.
Is it 11-1 or something like that?
I think it was. I think it was 11-1. Just gonna see if I've got it.
So they got 4 points for both killing the same hero.
Yeah,
they got 4 points for both of them being in the center. For us, both, so that was 8 points. They broke us, which is 10 points.
Banner was the last one.
Had,
so we both had a banner, so that it was 11-1. So we got 1 point for having a banner alive, which was quite lucky that he didn't. He kind of was sort of standfasted and survived that long. But yeah, they dropped 1 point because we had a banner left basically at the end. So it was nearly a clean sweep. So it was quite a pasting. But yeah, that brings us on to our last game, I believe.
Yeah.
So this one's memorable because it was Denethor's Daycare.
Beautifully painted army.
So I may have forgotten to vote for best army overall for the event, but this is the one I had my eye on, and I think this is the one you did vote for, if you don't mind me saying so.
Yeah, I voted for these ones, and then the ones which actually won it in the end. The was it Moranna Phelan? The Asciliath board.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh, that was It was quite close between these two, I think. Actually, it's interesting that they're both Gondor, because that one also caught. I mean, there was a few that caught my eye because the standard was just. You kind of think if about 10 of these boards, if they'd have been taken to any other event, they'd have just won best painted hands down. But because the competition was so like fierce here in terms of sort of the quality, it just meant some of the like really outstanding stuff. There was there's a whole bunch of really outstanding stuff. So that didn't really make sense. Anyway, so yeah, we were playing against them. So this was the kind of the Contest of Champions one, isn't it? But doubles version. I can't remember what it's called now.
It's just called. It's Clash of Champions, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and basically, we keep a tally of kills from our heroes, and then you get maximum 7 VPs for tripling the amount of sort of joint kills compared to your opponent, and then you get an extra 2 VPs, I think, for killing their lead, for killing one of their leaders with your leader, and then I think it's broken or something like that. Can't remember. But that's broadly it, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, you get 3 points if your leaders have killed more than your opponent's leaders. If you kill twice as many, you get 5 points, and 3 times is 7 points, and 2 points for each enemy leader that's been killed in combat by one of your team's leaders, and then 1 point for breaking.
Cool. Yeah. So we rolled. So Denethor had to be their leader, I think, because of his rules. But they had Denethor and Faramir in one team, I think, and then they had Boromir as the other leader, and then a bolt thrower and Beregond.
That's right.
But I deployed first, and I basically deployed as a shield wall between, kind of opposite a forest, kind of anchoring one of my flanks, thinking they wouldn't be able to extend into the forest. So I kind of lined up, opposite the open space next to a forest, and I kind of set myself up for a march because I was with Shagrat at the front, in fairness, which is a bit risky because I had no idea where Boromir was going. But with Shelob behind, so she could swing round. So whether that means she hurls down the line or she just goes in, or whatever. She was kind of loitering. But then, kind of surprisingly, Denethor lined up opposite me, but with Denethor behind the lines. So that was interesting. And then I think Faramir was off to one side with the cav.
Yeah.
The bolt thrower was obviously at the back to one side, and then you deployed as well, didn't you, next?
Yeah, I sort of took up your right flank, filling the gap to the building, really. Preventing those cav that Faramir was leading from. Actually, Faramir hadn't deployed at that point, had he?
I can't remember.
No, because we deployed first.
Oh, so Faramir must have been with Boromir. So it must have been.
No, it was sorry. Yeah, it was Denethor and Faramir together, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's why you took up my right, because there was
Cav off there. Cav, yeah, and then I put then had the orc. So that was Gorby. We left a hole for Gorby at the front to come in and swing into the side of their line if it happened, and then the Uruk captain sort of loitering behind, and then the Orc captain was on your left flank with a small band just to sort of try and wrap up, sort of protect the left hand side and to give us some ability to deploy some. I think it's either some spears or some shields to just bolster up that flank for you.
Yeah, and then Boromir deployed behind the line, and then his shield wall basically continued Denethor's one. And then the Beregond deployed off to the side with a few Citadel Guard, and then the bolt thrower at the back, slightly to one side. And we won priority, actually. I don't think they contested it, because obviously they were sort of set up to deal with it. And basically, you reorganised your right to sort of get ready to receive a charge the following turn.
Yep.
And then you put Gorby
into the Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Tear down the shield wall. So Gorby went in on the side charging 2 to get the Orcish Brawler going to sort of counter their fight 4 by your, fight 5 and getting an extra attack. Obviously, had the spear support as well. Shagrat charged 2 in the middle with a spear support. Shelob then sort of wrapped around into a gap we left to charge just another part of the shield wall. And then your guys were basically protecting her flank, but sort of in a concave thing. Basically meaning that if Boromir decided to go hard down that flank, he wouldn't charge turn 1. So basically both their heroes would definitely be out of combat for a turn, so we could sort of get the kills going. And I think I was a bit surprised that Boromir stayed put turn 1, because obviously he wanted maximum coverage with the banner and he couldn't get in anywhere. So he kind of just chilled at the back, which kind of helped us because it meant that we had a turn of sort of combats without, we had the opportunity to sort of chalk up stuff on the board without them doing the same, really. So it kind of gave us a free turn almost. And Gorby did the business, didn't he, basically?
Yeah, he got his he was outnumbered, so he got his Orcish Brawler special rules, giving him the extra attack and the extra fight value. And then he went straight in, killed both, I think.
Yes, he did.
And then that then put him ahead of Shagrat, which we forgot for Shagrat's first combat, but it meant with the special rules of the scenario, the friendly rivalry special rules, it meant that
I would have got
combined
+1 to wound.
And re-rolling a dual roll, wasn't it?
Yeah, so the critical one I forgot was the dual roll, because I struck as well, because they had a Citadel Guard supporting, so I was like, well, I'll strike just to make sure I'm above fight 5 and just put them in the ground. Basically, Shagrat fluffed, and then they didn't wound him, but he fluffed, which was annoying.
Yeah.
Shelob did not fluff. And kind of the general story down the line was that we got the best of it, basically, and they did kill stuff, but we killed more stuff, and Shelob killed a lot of killed both the dude she was in contact with, so it was kind of advantage us after turn 1, I think.
Yeah, we had very hot dice that entire game. I think that they were just...
Yeah, it was gross, to be fair.
Yeah, we were just rolling so hot. It felt felt really bad at times.
I think we won.
How well we were doing.
We won more of the roll-offs as well for the like heroic moves and stuff too.
Yeah.
And I mean, do you want to quickly tell the story of Faramir's lot? Because I guess you can kind of just do to the end of the game, because it kind of, I can't remember what happened each turn, but I remember sort of overall. I mean, basically Faramir was. I mean, Denethor was basically right to dismiss Faramir as a disappointment, wasn't he? Basically.
Yeah. So the Faramir with his 3 or 4 knights charged in, and there was a they fluffed it on the first turn. I think they only managed to I think they lost most of the dual rolls. I don't think I managed to kill many of them on the first turn they charged.
No.
But we essentially got the better of them on that flank. We I can't remember who dehorsed Faramir. Was it the Uruk captain?
I don't think it was, because I think Faramir called a combat the first time, killed the 2 is in combat with, charged again, and then fluffed, and it might have then been that guy.
Because we had quite a deep line that was quite scattered there. We were able to chuck in orcs on the wider bases. So orcs on the smaller base against the cav on the wider bases to get the animosity bonuses.
Yeah.
So it was quite a good position for us against cav, because we sort of, our line stretched but didn't break.
Yeah,
and we had a couple of arch sales. I think I was just chucking archers in to get the animosity bonus.
Yeah,
I just fully expected them to get minced up.
Yeah,
but my archers got killed. I think they got no kills the entire tournament in shooting, but they have landed a blow in combat.
Yeah, and the I remember that Faramir rolled a 1 on the Throne Rider as well, didn't he? So he was prone.
Yes, but then it's what's that meme? It's just like cartoon of there's 2 guys kicking someone on the ground and then someone drinking a cup of tea, and then just runs over to start kicking the crap out of them as well, but still did not manage to kill Faramir. But it took a little while to get him killed. It was a very
he didn't actually die, did he?
Disappointing for us. Did he not die in the end? Was he still alive?
I don't think so.
Did we get the bonus points for killing. No, no.
He wasn't anything. He wasn't the secondary or primary leader, so I think he was irrelevant because he got. I think because when he was dismounted, I think he sort of killed. I think he may have killed one or two of the rest of the game, and yeah, the knights sort of got a few decent kills, but then obviously you were able to, because I think Faramir was hemorrhaging might basically, and was out of might very quickly, which meant you then called the moves. I think you won a move off as well, because I think he called a combat, he used the might for something, and then he called the move, which we won, and then he was out of might. And then I think basically he just countercharged and sort of whittled away the knights. And I don't think anyone dealt with Faramir really, but he had so many orcs around him, he could kind of just be ignored really.
Yeah, we shut that flank.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty much the whole game, wasn't it? It's just they were over there doing that, and it's like, yep, fine. And in the center, I think we basically just punched a massive hole in the middle where we just killed so many dudes, and Shagrat, starting to get a few kills, and Gorby was just an absolute beast. But again, just the whole game is just a beast, and Denethor was basically running away from them. But on the other side, it's sort of because the bolt thrower had one round of shooting before they just sort of continually moved it up, and basically rolled a 1 and for how many shots it got, and then didn't hit. I think their Citadel Guard did slightly better as they sort of moved in, but it still wasn't too game changing. But you sort of started to bring your orcs you put on my left sort of around Shelob, and Boromir basically just sort of took his chance and went in against some orcs, and yeah, I think he combated and then sort of went in again, but I think it was our priority, and basically Shelob was in contact with a couple of dudes, and there was just this perfect hurl to basically dismount Boromir and a knight. Yeah. I didn't really care about him, and basically we won the fight, hurled into Boromir, and then obviously that's Boromir on his bum, so that helped us, because I think Boromir only got 1 kill the whole game, and that was it. I think it was when he got that combat when he charged in and he sort of killed a dude and then went and charged the next dude, and then that's when Shelob threw a dude at him.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was good, and it also meant, because Boromir had to sort of move that way to sort of get kills, it meant that the fight buff didn't extend over the other side of the line with Shagrat and Gorby, who were then able to just sort of clear up.
Yeah.
So Shagrat and Gorbag basically ended up with 5 kills apiece, because Shagrat eventually caught up with
Gorby was out of combat for a couple of turns.
I think so, yeah. Or he got 1 guy whilst Shagrat got 2 for a couple of turns or something like that. But it was, yeah. But I mean, you basically kept ahead the whole time until right at the end of the game when Shagrat finally caught up. But then basically just the dicing continued really, and they just sort of melted. The sort of the minister sort of just melted away, despite having fight 5 and stuff, because the amount of ones being rolled was quite incredible. They gave us a couple of the dice they're using actually, which are these cool tomato ones, but I'm kind of afraid to roll it because it looks like just roll ones.
Yeah, they seem cursed.
Yeah. But yeah, no. So Boromir then sort of spent the rest of the game fighting Shelob, and I think he won a couple of times and then he lost a couple of times, but it didn't matter, because I think the plan was always put Boromir into Shelob. If he kills her, then fine. But that's one. Yeah. So that they basically just kind of bounced off each other the whole game, and there's not really too much more to say. Shagrat did charge Denethor, because he combated into Denethor the last turn of the game.
Did he lose the strike? Did he lose the duel?
He lost the duel. He rolled like a too high or something, because obviously you have in that one, if you kill the enemy leader, it has to be with your leader to get the VPs.
Yeah.
So so basically the Shagrat fluffed, because Shagrat was just crap this game. But basically I charged in the last turn of the game. I charged Shelob into Boromir, and then he sort of countercharged with Baragon and a bunch of other dudes, but I still somehow won the combat, because I think Boromir was also hemorrhaging might, calling.
He was out by that point.
Yeah, he was out, which is Yeah, and they'd not been sort of spending it frivolously either. It's just kind of he'd just been hemorrhaging might just to do
Compensate
stuff.
for those ones.
Yeah,
he
pretty
kept
much. Yeah,
rolling.
and then basically there was kind of a choice of to sort of prolong the suffering a bit by not not killing
Paralysing.
anyone or just paralyzing Boromir. But then I think we were a bit like, let's just probably call it here. And then we just ate Beregond, and then that triggered the end of the game because they were quartered by that point. And I think it's just one of those where it was just kind of a dicing. I mean, I think you could sum it up with a million different sort of cases of where the dice just went wrong. And I mean, one of them was we left a knight unmarked on our right flank that you were dealing with, and we were like, oh, we're going to be in trouble. And then just rolled like snake eyes for the courage test or something. And you're like, yeah, that figures. So it's just it was basically a dicing, but again, this was like a really pleasant game. So I think they were kind of there for a good time. So I don't think they were too bothered, and just So that was
absolute pleasure to play against visually, and they took the drubbing off the dice so well. Well. Like I
it
don't
was
know.
a dice issue.
Yeah, I don't know how I'd been able to maintain a straight face myself. They were absolutely
sometimes
saints.
it's a bit like I suppose sometimes you sort of have to laugh and just say, well, yeah, that's just kind of is what it is, I guess. But we won that 8-0, so we dropped 4 VPs because we didn't kill their leaders with our leaders. So that was where we dropped points. But yeah, we finished because it sounds like from feedback previously they've kind of almost do a parallel just kind of game result standings and a few sort of best of bracket prizes to reflect that. So they sort of did a sort of winner overall just on game, and then sort of best of 4 wins, and then 3 wins and 2 wins. So we finished 10th, but we weren't quite top of the best in bracket 4. I think we were a few places behind. So I think actually. So we were 10th, and then I think it was 5th. I think 5th place. In fact, not 5th. Yeah, 4th place lost a game. 3rd place had drawn a game. So I think so position 1 and 2 had won all their games, and then 3rd place had they had a minor loss. Yeah, so I think maximum of 3rd was on the table, but obviously, there's pretty fierce competition. Obviously, we had one of ours was a minor win, and obviously we had a major loss. So I don't think we were ever going to trouble that. But I think we were quite pleased with that, weren't we? 10th out of 76 teams, I think.
Yeah. I thought we like I say, we didn't go along intending to place, and we thought we'll just have a good time. But I thought, 4 wins I was really pleased with, and then coming 10th. Yeah, I think it's the highest proportionately up the scoreboard I've ever come at a tournament, but I've only ever done 3, so
but no, you did really well there. I think I think we did well as a team. I think you did well, and I think I did well. And I think when we lost, it was just kind of like, well, I think at a certain point there's nothing you could do really. Like even if Gorby had somehow managed to get away from Thranduil, which he probably wouldn't have, then I still don't see us winning that one, frankly. But
no, sandwiched in good.
Yeah, I mean it's just one of those where it's just like it's what it is, and it's kind of a weakness of our list, and the strength of the list we came up against is they had 2 strong heroes, and we had a whole bunch of chaff heroes, and then and then our captains and Gorbag are sort of fairly low hanging fruit to get those kills. So so that was really good, wasn't it? And but I must admit we did slip down the order when the game of the Throne of Skulls scoring came into account, which is then taking into account the game score and stuff. So I think we got a best army and a best sporting vote, but it kicked us right down to 30th.
Yeah.
It's kind of we were sort of talking about it, and because we basically went in, and I think I said from the outset, like, look, there's so many soft points that this isn't one to sort of go and sort of try and bring the sweat and the cheese and be really try hard, because the soft points sort of tilt it so much, and the people's paint jobs are incredible, which kind of locks down one of the categories, makes that really hard. And then obviously most sporting, it was nice to pick up a vote, but again it's quite hard, and often you tend to give them to people you beat. So if you got more wins than losses, then again maybe they tend to sort of go sort of down the table, I suppose, rather than sort of giving best sportings up. And I think that's why it's quite remarkable when there was a couple of teams right at the top, including the team that won, who did quite well and picked up a whole bunch of most best games. Whereas I think it was then it was mostly people who were sort of near the bottom. Because I think the people who spooned on game score then actually went to like 40th place on game score, because obviously people enjoyed the game, so all the soft points sort of shot them up the board. So it's it's one of those. I don't know what you think about the scoring system, or if you don't really think anything about it, or
yeah, no, it's interesting. It's a weird sort of behavioral adjustment tool when you're there. Because like normally I'd be like flipping off like a scene from Downfall or something.
Yeah.
Like, that was an order. Gorbag's attack was an order.
Steiner. Just like Gorbag's instantly killed the Ninth Army will attack and save Berlin.
But no, like I try, like every tournament I've been to, I've tried to be like try not to get sweaty, because you got to remember they're just to play for fun, and it is something that I try. I think it's so easy in the Lord of the Rings games to have quite relaxed games.
Yeah.
When you are doing well, you do have to catch yourself. But yes, it's sort of as you explained, it's sort of, it seems to be that if you've won, say if you've won 3 games and lost 2. If you've lost 2 and won 3, you're more likely to attribute your most sporting players to the ones where you won, just because, I don't know, you get a bit of a buzz off of winning, don't you? I mean, it's not always the case, and obviously, like, people,
I think it's also like when people, like, I mean, for example, our last game was a drubbing, and yes, that was a lot of it was a dice issue. I mean, a lot of it was a dice issue. I was just sort of not understating it. Like, it was pretty appalling. But they took it really well, and it's just like, well, clearly you sort of give them a vote. But then sometimes when you're on the other side, so this wasn't the case here, because we actually, I think our drubbing was one of our favorite games actually. But normally, if you take a drubbing, you're like, well, that wasn't like, it very much wasn't a favorite game.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of an odd one. I kind of don't really have strong feelings either way. I kind of I wouldn't like it to be sort of too normalized in like the GBHL stuff, just because I personally don't really like soft points for most tournaments, in that people are sort of going there to be competitive, and I think there's an assumption that everyone should have sort of a base level of, like, sportsmanship and civility and all the rest of it, that kind of just comes as a matter of course. And I have found that actually to be the reality as well. Is and there's so many great games you've had, but you haven't given them most sporting, because you only got one vote. So
maybe an alternative system would be, and this is flipping on its head, to say, like, if you've gone to a tournament, you played 5 games, you have an opportunity to essentially mark a player as, I really didn't enjoy this game, and if all 5 of your players mark you as, I really didn't enjoy you, maybe there's like a soft point deduction for that. But
I do wonder that. But then I don't know. I wonder if that just kind of, because if you found you got a deduction because nobody liked you, it's just a bit. I don't know. I know what you mean.
You need to work on yourself, James. You need to. It should incentivize you to do some self-improvement, some reflection.
I suppose sort of move. In fact, just before we move on to that as well, is for example, I know that there was. I mean, I was quite happy we got a vote on each, so I was kind of like, I was kind of mortally terrified that we wouldn't get a vote on either, and then we would just sort of feel like crap. But I think it was nice to pick those up. But I mean, there's people on the scoreboard, and I've sort of played them before, and all or we played them and they didn't get many votes, and I was like, well, but we really enjoyed that game, but then like it just but maybe it wasn't people's favorite, so then they don't get any or many votes, and then they're like, well, do people not enjoy playing me? It's like, no, it just wasn't, just wasn't the favorite, and it kind of I think it has a way of sort of, it can sort of make people feel bad as well, I think. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that a bit, because you're like, oh, was there something wrong with me? But
Well, because the people who did badly as well, like in the overall rankings, would have been fairly low on game points and wouldn't have picked up the soft points. And it's a bit like, I don't know, it's just kind of a bit of a feel bad, isn't it?
Exactly. But it's made me think, because the next army I'm starting now, I'm building it to be like as like a list I take to tournaments where there are more soft points, like soft gaming, but also like for tournaments which like I just want to show it off, because I'm really gonna put a lot of effort into like the painting, the basing, and all of that, and the theme of it.
And you have to start thinking about a display board as well.
Well, exactly. Like it's gonna have to be like a 3-tiered. What you showed me from Seven Stones, got to have a water feature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was Jay and his partner's one. That was pretty mad. But and then I suppose just quickly on the painting one, there's not much to say about that. It's just it's nice to see sort of painting recognized, but I suppose the thing is I appreciate the Throne of Skull scoring system, and I appreciate we went to a tournament where that was in play, and we were like, well, we're basically going to have games, and we're not worrying about where we end up. So that's that's kind of neither here. Like, we kind of knew what we were getting into, so we're not like. Well, I mean, I'm speaking for you, but I mean, I'm not sort of like disappointed or whatever that we sort of plummeted the order when the soft points were taken in. But it's
no, I think what I did recognize, because there's like separate, they had this like, there are a lot of people who picked up say 2 or 3 awards or certificates, well deserved.
Yeah.
But because there was an overlap between like the judges best painted, and then you had like the best painted and most sporting, and then like the overall scoring, like I think it was like, if you cracked it, you cracked a lot.
Yeah, I suppose if you really nailed your display board, then you picked up all those soft points, and you had a good shout in at the painting award as well. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, it's nice to see sportsmanship and painting recognized, but I kind of like it where it's a side category.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, when you get recognized for it as a distinct thing, rather than which has its own decent awards and the kudos that comes with it.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't like the Throne of Skulls scoring system as a matter of course, but I think as like a one-off every year, I can kind of because you kind of just take something fluffy and you build a nice board and you sort of go and have some games and just sort of see where you end up, rather than going in with any sort of expectations. So I'd happily do it next year.
I would consider renaming it from Throne of Skulls, because Throne of Skulls sounds like I've beheaded hundreds of people and I sit upon a throne made of their corpses.
When actually it's a very cuddly story. It should be like Rainbow Unicorn scoring.
Like, do you know how I think we're gonna listen back to this and like think, oh my god, we sound like such a bunch of salty bits. When in reality,
it was more people like us.
Let's complain about it on the internet and see if it makes them like us more.
Yeah. No, I just kind of I don't know. I just found it interesting. So I've never really come across it before. I've come across so that the local tournaments at Milton Keynes used to do soft points for I think it was for painting and sportsmanship or something. So that used to skew it a bit, and I was kind of a bit like, oh, I don't know about that. And they kind of got rid of it, and then I was a lot happier when they got rid of it. And so then coming to a tournament where it's all 50% about the soft points rather than like a little sort of final add-on is kind of a bit of a weird one. But I think it is. I know I've said it before, and I'm not trying to sort of open the salt mines or anything, but I think it is like, once a year you can sort of go and take some fluff and build a board and not really worry about it. But I think as a matter of course, you wouldn't want it. I don't think. But
no.
But it's also at Warhammer World, so that's kind of part of the charm, isn't it? So
yeah, exactly. Oh, there was actually one really big issue I had, which we haven't talked about yet, which is so set an alarm for what is it, like 6:30 on Saturday morning.
Oh.
Gonna get up nice and early, and
You're
we're
going to mention
deciding
the breakfast.
we're gonna mention the breakfast. Yeah,
It's got to be.
get up nice and early. We'll get there for about what is it? With registration open at 9, so I'll get there for 9:15 for first game at 10. We'll have plenty of time to have a nice.
Well, first game was
dry
at 15:15.
breakfast.
That's how early we were.
Is that a whole hour before to enjoy some lovely cooked breakfast from Bugman's Bar, and we were told they weren't doing breakfast. So
yeah, I was a bit like, because we'd agreed that one of the 2 days we just kind of have a nice breakfast. And we thought, well, why don't we just do it the first day? And we turned up and there was no breakfast, and then they were doing breakfast the second day, but we'd already had breakfast. So I was like, "Ah!" And I don't think there was any reason. It was just like, oh, I'm not doing breakfast. It's like, okay. But as it turns out, I think pretty much everything is. I don't think I can actually eat anything because of celiacness, but you were certainly deprived of a nice breakfast, but there's other than that, I think everything, like the organisation and the lunches and the free exhibition,
put on a really good tournament. Everyone, all the TOs were really friendly and supportive, and not a bad word to say about it, really.
Yeah, exactly. Apart from breakfast. Should we stop waffling and hang up our mics now, do you reckon?
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's a bit of a longer one, but there's kind of more to talk about, I suppose, with doubles. But I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I guess we'll see you at the next tournament.